Well, hello again, everybody. And Ben and I have got another rant to impose on you. And today we'd like to go through one that we've been looking forward to getting stuck into: why veganism is dead wrong on all levels. Yeah, Ben's put together another slide presentation that I haven't actually seen yet. So we're going to improvise through this one and have some fun. So well done, Ben. And over to you. Where are we
Yeah,
starting?
well, the good news is it's all common sense, really. So, we don't need to prepare too much. But yeah, so obviously we're told a lot from every angle these days that we should all be eating more plants, more fruit, less meat, and everything else. And there are these three main arguments that are presented. One is health, the other one is environment, of course, and then finally there's the ethical problem of how wrong it is to eat other animals. And we're told that veganism is the answer to all of these. And we are going to try and explain why in each case, it's dead wrong. Right. So now you might be sitting there thinking, no, this is bonkers. This goes against everything that we're told. Correct. Absolutely. And there's a lot of stuff that we're told these days that is completely about face, defies logic, and defies common sense. So let's dive in. We'll work through each one of them in turn, starting with health, which is possibly the easiest. So I think we can all agree that the best and healthiest food for any species is the food that that species has always eaten. So, for example, dolphins have always eaten fish, right? Lions have always eaten warm-blooded herbivores. I don't know if that's an oryx or something like that. And koalas have always eaten the leaves of eucalyptus trees. We obviously can't eat the leaves of eucalyptus trees because they are toxic. Okay, so that then raises the question: well, what have humans always eaten? Which we'll come on to. So we will return to this chart later on. It shows basically the temperature of planet Earth as we understand it, pretty much for the entire lifespan of life on Earth. So the first land animals, large land animals, appearing about 450 million years ago. We had dinosaurs that died out about 60, 65 million years ago. And about 4 million years ago, 3.5 to 4 million years ago, there was this little stumpy ape descendant called Australopithecus. Now, we should probably bracket everything that we're going to say with the disclaimer that all of this is as anthropologists currently understand it. We accept that there are still huge gaps in the fossil record to say where we came from. So we'll leave that aside. But as far as science understands it right now, these Australopithecines, which were like little kind of chimp-like fellas, about 3.5 feet tall, and they were living in the jungles in Africa. But what happened is, since this last thermal maximum about 50 million years ago, just after the dinosaurs died out and grasses started to evolve, the Earth has been gradually cooling from about 6 degrees higher than it is now. And it dried out. So what happened is that the trees need an awful lot of water in order to survive. So what happened is that we found that there were forests all over the world that started to recede, and a lot of grasslands like savanna and steppe and whatever it grew to take their place, because grasses are a lot more efficient at growing when water is scarce. They can adapt to drier periods, whereas trees can't. They just die. So Australopithecus then evolved to Homo erectus, and then onto us roughly 200 to 200,000 years ago. Okay, so this is an artist's impression of an Australopithecus. Like we say, about 3.5 feet tall, probably ate mainly leaves and fruits and the odd bug and lizard and whatever they could find. So the story goes that with the receding of the forests, that some Australopithecines found that their habitat was disappearing and started to wander out onto the savannas in search of new sources of food. And what they found was something that no other animal was really able to access, which is bone marrow and brain matter, which it's understood that they scavenged from the kills of other predators. So they came out, and Australopithecus is unique because what we see, aside from a massive jump in brain capacity, they also had hands a little bit more like ours, with longer thumbs and shorter fingers than other apes. So they were less well adapted to climbing in trees and swinging from branches, but better for handling tools. And we found there are examples of fossilized bones with cut marks on, which show that people or somebody had been using tools to cut the meat off bones, and also maybe to smash into bones. So they will have picked up rocks to use as hammers, smashed into bones, and got access to the bone marrow in there, and also the contents of the skull cavity as well. And that apparently then allowed them to evolve into Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and Homo erectus, and then eventually to us. And what's unique about humans is that we are the only real predator out there in the world that doesn't hunt using our face. That we've always used probably projectile weapons to hunt our own prey. So in this case, we've got a bunch of guys using spears. Then we had bows and arrows, and we probably started off by throwing sticks and rocks at stuff. And Phil, you and I did a whole episode picking this one apart the other day. This idea that if you're predators, if you're carnivores, where are your giant canine teeth? So we can link to that. We're not going to go over any of that again today, but that basically answers your question. We have always hunted using tools, and we have prepared our food, and we've cooked our food over fire. And so we just didn't need the massive mouths, the massive teeth to catch our prey with. We didn't need claws. We've managed without any of that, as a lot of carnivores do today. So that access to highly nutritious meat, bone marrow, brain matter, and then all the other meats and the organ meats that we got when we started hunting for ourselves prompted a dramatic change in our physiology. So here we've got the skeleton of a human, and we've got the skeleton of a gorilla, and you can see that there are some enormous differences. So for one thing, the gorilla's got this massive pelvis and short, strong legs, and it's also got this triangular rib cage, as all other apes do. Whereas our rib cage is much more kind of square and narrow. It doesn't triangulate out like a gorilla's does. So apart from the fact that obviously we've adapted to to walk and run on 2 feet much more than the gorilla, but the reason for this is that the gorilla has to house an enormous large intestine, an enormous gut, and that they need that because they eat leaves and stalks from plants. Okay, so here you've got gorilla on the right hand side, and you can see its massive belly. Now these gorillas are not fat. We'll actually come on to that in a bit, but what happens is they've got these trillions of bacteria living in their gut. So they're called hindgut digesters, because the big bacterial colonies come after the stomach, whereas in the case of ruminants like cows and so on, and sheep, they have a rumen that comes before the stomach, that house the bacteria. And what these bacteria do is that they are able to do something which no mammal can do, right? Which is to break down cellulose and other indigestible plant material. So no large mammal can actually digest cellulose, which is the building blocks of most plants. And cellulose it's actually a complex carbohydrate, which means it's made up of lots of glucose molecules joined together to form the structural part of plants. But cellulose is not soluble in water, whereas starch can be. And so we don't have any mechanism ourselves to break down the cellulose chains into glucose molecules. The only thing that can do that is bacteria. Okay, so your gorilla eats like a load of cellulose. They spend hours and hours of their day eating, chewing, resting, and also then eating their own poop to recycle even more nutrition from it. But it's the bacteria that then they break down the cellulose, and then they digest the glucose, and they excrete short-chain fatty acids, which the gorilla then actually digests and absorbs. So gorillas are on a high-fat diet, as are horses and sheep and goats and cows, and every large mammal that we know of actually exists on a high-fat diet. And there you can see the difference in brain size between us and the gorilla. And the other point is that there's this idea called the expensive tissue hypothesis, which means that for every animal, depending on how much energy you can actually get in, how much nutrition you can get in, you can only, that energy has to be accounted for by everything in your body, your skeletal muscles, your organs, your gut, your brain, etc. And operating a very large gut is actually highly energy intensive. I think it's about 40% or so of the gorilla's energy, of all its organ energy, is actually used by the gut. Whereas in our case, we've got a much bigger brain, but a much smaller gut, because we simply couldn't afford to run both. There aren't enough hours in the day to absorb enough nutrition to have a massive brain, because they're very, very energy intensive, and also a massive gut. So every animal more or less has a metabolic use of energy that is roughly kind of in some way proportional to its size. And that holds absolutely true for humans and gorillas and cats and everything else. So yeah, we had to make savings in order to have a brain of this size and an intelligence of this size. We had to make savings elsewhere. So here you have your cow. These are like foregut digesters or ruminants, in other words. And there's a little diagram of the rumen, massive rumen that then comes before the small intestine. They've got relatively small large intestine. Okay, we also have a much smaller large intestine than a gorilla. So this brings us on to the question. Okay, if the most healthy and appropriate food for any species is what they've always eaten, what have humans always eaten? Well, we know pretty much. One thing we have always eaten for the vast majority of our time on Earth is the meat and the fat of large animals, large hairy ones. And one reason we know this is because it's the first thing that we decided to make a permanent record of in the form of cave paintings. So these might be, so we've got horse there, we've got aurochs, which are the ancestor of modern cattle. And we will absolutely have always supplemented our food with fruits, with shellfish, with fungi, with nuts, and whatever we could find in season, in addition to that. But wherever you go in the world, there's no tribe that exists entirely on plants and fungi, right? And we're talking about the Neolithic tribes, really, that remain in the world today. So
yeah, could we just stress that, when you say the cave painting, and that's a great example of our history. But also you can see in studies, like if you look up a study that Israel study on bone isotope records done by Professor Mickey Bendor, and it shows from bone isotope records that we've existed pretty much exclusively on fatty ruminant animal meat for millennia. We were the apex predator, and that's what we're adapted to. So
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, this chart shows the concentration of two different isotopes and maps them out. So you've got carbon-13 here as a percentage, and then nitrogen-15 here. And we've got, these are your herbivores, your prey animals, with relatively low amounts of those. And the point is that the prevalence of the concentration of these isotopes will increase, become more concentrated as you eat, as you inherit your nutrition by eating other things. So your hyena, your wolf, your cave lion, and so on, they've got more of, in particular, the carbon-13. We also have more than any of those of the nitrogen-15, which actually suggests that we not only ate herbivores like mammoth and rhino and horse and buffalo, bison, but we probably also ate other carnivores as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and people say, well, you can sort of guess at what happened in the past. It doesn't mean to say we have to do it now, that sort of thing. And I'd refer people to interviews with Mary Ruddick. I have one on my Red Pill Buddhas podcast, and she was very, very damaged by veganism, was bedridden for a long time, and then fixed herself on a high meat, high fat diet. And now she lives with tribes all over the world, Africa, the Amazon, the Arctic, and her views of exactly what they eat will really sort of shape what people have been led to believe. Because even down at the equator, they're eating 90% meat. Up in the north, in the Arctic, the Sami, the Maasai, the Sami and the Inuit are eating 100% meat. And there's just never been a culture until, which we'll come on to later, until religion and spirituality has got involved, that has eaten a plant-based diet. It's not even possible.
Yeah. But it really is significant, isn't it, that if we've been around for 250,000 years as this species, but 3 or 4 million years as hominids, then we've been successful. We know we if we came out of Africa and spread to every corner of the earth except Antarctica, right? We are by definition successful, and therefore we must have found sufficient nutrition, sufficient energy, and it must have been healthful over all of that time. If you take your dog to the vet, for example, and say my dog's suffering from X, Y, or Z, the first thing the vet's going to say to you is, well, what are you feeding it? And if you say, oh, I'm feeding it cheap kibble, the vet might say, well, that's not appropriate. If there are reasons why you have signs in zoos saying do not feed the animals on sweeties and pastries because it'll make them sick.
I think that's more. I think some of the vets have been kind of corrupted, like docs now, and don't even understand what the animals eat. But the zoo vets are definitely a lot more clued up because they're dealing with wild animals. I think some of the regular vets have forgotten that cats and dogs are not supposed to eat kibble. But I think it's something I always say to the vegans when they say, "Oh well, we're like the apes." One guy was saying, "Well, an elephant lives 60 years and a lion lives 12 years. What do you want to live?" Like, well, we're not elephants and we're not lions. It's crazy. But I always say, look, if you get a gorilla, they say, oh, we should eat like the apes. You get a gorilla and you feed it steak every day. Not that it would eat it, but it wouldn't be able to deal with it. And yet you feed a human nothing but steak every day and they absolutely thrive. So what does that tell you? We're not like gorillas. It's just, all these bits of dogma that we've been given. If you actually look at what's happening in real life, it just doesn't tie in. And I tell them, go and try and eat 50 pounds of dry vegetation a day and your own poo. See how you get on.
Yeah. Apart from anything else, where are you going to find all that food from? I've literally just been out on a 2-hour dog walk, and we are at the start of August here in the UK. It's a temperate climate anyway. And as we've been walking around, because my wife and I both forage, we've just gone and picked a load of wild fennel for her cookery courses. And we came away from this walk in a lovely kind of parkland area and really had to just say, well, the vast majority of available calories that are out at this time of year, and this is peak feeding yourself season, the vast majority of calories that we could find are blackberries. And you could eat maybe a large handful of blackberries at this time of year before you'll get stomachache. It's just too acidic. It's not right. There are hazelnuts. There's lots of hazelnuts on the trees, but they're not ripe yet, right? Even for me, as a relatively well-informed forager, there is absolutely no way that I could feed myself, even in a pleasant temperate climate like this, without animal products.
Yeah, and in the winter you'd have no chance. You know,
Absolutely none.
you
No.
could you
Some
could go on
fungi.
any number of quinoa hunts and you'll come up empty-handed.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you believe, when we're agnostic to this, that we were created by a deity, by Darwinian evolution, or by aliens, that makes no difference. Our design is this. Our design is the way that we are, and this is a representation of our dietary physiology. So now, it has to be said, we have never lost the ability to get some energy from plants, right? We can get energy from simple and complex carbohydrates, not from cellulose and not from leaves and stalks and stuff like that, but we can derive some energy from tubers, from seeds, from nuts and stuff like that as well, because it probably helped us in our survival. Okay, so we have enzymes that are produced in our saliva that start the process of digesting starch, and we have enzymes that start the process of breaking down fats even before it reaches the stomach. Okay, so we've got a large liver. Obviously, we've got a gallbladder, which not all animals have. Horses, I think, and camels, and all of those, the llamas and stuff like that. They don't have a gallbladder. They don't need it. And the purpose of a gallbladder is to store bile that's been created by the liver, which helps to break down fats. We have this relatively extensive small intestine, and the purpose of that is to absorb amino acids and fats. But our large intestine has shrunk right down to just about 1.5 meters. So it's like a span. Whereas the gorillas is much, much bigger than that. Even a pig's is 5 to 7 meters long. A pig is a true omnivore. And really the purpose of our large intestine now is to reabsorb the water from our diet and salts and stuff like that. And where is the appendix? You can't actually see it on here. Okay, so the appendix comes, I think at the start of, so between the small intestine and the large intestine, and it's really about the size of your little finger, right? Whereas a gorilla's cecum, so our appendix is a vestigial cecum. Gorilla's cecum is the size of your arm. It's absolutely enormous. Why? Because that's an organ whose role completely is to do with the digestion of plants in a hindgut digester, like a gorilla. We've got a tiny little one because we simply don't need it anymore. So this is interesting as well, looking at body fat. So on the left, we've got the bonobo. This is the pygmy chimpanzee, and this is in terms of genetics, this is the closest living relative that we have in terms of what DNA that we share. Now, a male bonobo has approximately 0% body fat. Right? Female will have approximately 4% body fat. And the reason for this, and gorillas have low body fat, orangutans in the wild, chimps in the wild, they have low body fat. Why? Because they don't need to store body fat. The reason they don't need to store body fat, if you look in the background of the picture of the bonobo, they are literally surrounded by their food. So they live in the jungle, and the jungle is full of leaves, right? So they spend all day wandering around, stuffing their faces, chewing, and then resting because it's all hard work, right? So it would be completely inefficient from an evolutionary point of view for them to be carrying around a load of extra body fat. They just don't need to do it. Humans, on the other hand, a healthy male will have approximately 20% body fat. So 20% of your weight should be fat in a healthy male. 34%, that's a third of your body weight in the case of a female, right? And if human males try to reduce their fat down even to the level of a female bonobo at 4%, then you'll be completely ripped. And we know that that is unsustainable and relatively unhealthy over time. By the same token, you don't really want it at 25, 30 or more than that as well, because that's a sign of metabolic disease. We also have a lot more fat cells than herbivores do, or chimps and gorillas. So if you think about it like a Tesla car, they've got loads and loads of batteries in, right? So having more fat cells is much more efficient for storing, retrieving fat, which is very important to us. An elephant, 9% body fat typically, right? Lion's about 13%, and a Labrador is very close to us. A Labrador dog, about 20% body fat. Okay, not my Labrador. He's about 40% body fat. Okay, so this then brings us on to a big question, a really fundamental question of how life actually works. Okay, so all energy derives originally from the sun. We have, and where you get sun, where you get soil, you'll have plants growing. And the plants collect the sun's energy and they draw nutrients up out of the soil, they draw carbon dioxide out of the air, and they build plants. And the purpose of being a plant is that you want to survive and you want to procreate and you want to spread your genetic profile elsewhere. Okay, that's how life literally works, through the cycling of energy, which originally comes from the sun, and from nutrients, which in the case of plants come from the soil. Now, wherever you have plants in the world, you will have herbivorous animals that eat plants. Right? This is the way that nature always works. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to do exactly the same thing. They want to survive long enough so that they can procreate. And in order to do that, they need energy and nutrients. And they get those secondhand by eating the plants. Okay. Then wherever you get herbivorous animals, you get carnivorous animals. And they're doing exactly the same thing. They want to survive so that they can procreate. And again, in turn, they inherit their nutrients, their energy from eating herbivorous animals on the whole. And then everything dies, everything poops and helps to rebuild the soil. And you get this cycle of life. And this is important. We're going to come back to this. Right. So getting into some of the nitty gritty of the health thing. There's this idea of a balanced diet. People love to talk about a balanced diet, which is really, I think, Phil, a very modern conceit. So a balanced diet means that, you can have some iced donuts and you can have some, Ben and Jerry's and a few Pringles. That's the idea of a balanced diet. And we'll come on to what we're told to eat later on. But a better definition of what a balanced diet should be is that you are putting in everything that your body needs. So what does your body need? It needs some water. It needs some essential fats. Okay. It needs amino acids, which you get from protein, and an array of minerals and micronutrients and vitamins and stuff like that. And some of those are called essential. And essential means that your body cannot make them itself. There are some things that we can make ourselves, and there are some things that we can't. For example, most mammals can synthesize vitamin C. Humans cannot do that, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff. Now, if you really want to understand this, look into the work of Weston A. Price, who was a Canadian dentist in the early 20th century. And he wanted to figure out why his patients were getting tooth decay. And his hypothesis was that it wasn't that there was anything in their diet or in their environment that was causing this. He thought from his observations that it must be something lacking, right? But because all of his patients were pedestrian Canadians, and they all pretty much lived the same way, he didn't have a control group to compare against. So what he did was he set off around the world with a team of researchers, and he produced this book in around 1931, I think, called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And he visited everywhere he could find. He went from the Americas to Switzerland, Africa, Australia, all over the world, everywhere in between. And he was in a unique position to compare generations that had been raised on their traditional diets, their traditional Neolithic diets, right? So this is all post-agricultural revolution, since we switched to getting most of our food from farming rather than from hunting. But he compared those generations with the next one or two generations that had been exposed to the white man's food, because we'd started to export our grains and our sugar and stuff all around the world. And what he found was the same exact pattern. And no one's ever going to be able to do this in the same way again. But at that specific period in time, he saw the same things happening. So on the left, you can see people completely healthy teeth, very, very little dental caries, tooth decay, broad jaws, broad noses, very easy breathing. And then on the right, and he's documented this same thing over and over again in all these civilizations. Even in the first generation that had been exposed to the Western diet, there you've got crooked teeth, you've got crowded teeth, you've got narrower noses, you've got mouth breathing, you've got loads more tooth decay, as well as things like tuberculosis and all kinds of other stuff. And he also observed a degeneration in terms of kind of mental acuity and social cohesion as well. And what he did was he put this down to some things that were missing, and the main things that were missing. So it's not so much that the grains and the sugar and whatever were specifically toxic or poisoning people. It's not so that they're not toxic in any way, but it was that they weren't getting enough of something. And what he concluded after going all around the world for years and years and studying this is that there were certain things missing in the diet, and they were specifically the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, right? And you can get these from mainly meats, you can get them from eggs, but the key thing is that animal fats can store the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. There is no source of fat or oil from the plant kingdom that is capable of storing these essential nutrients, okay? So that's what he came out with. And it's not just that either. So, right, let's move on now to the plant-based diet or the vegan diet. There's a bunch of stuff that if at any time in our evolution that we were able to get from the plant kingdom, we don't have that ability anymore. So EPA and DHA are two very, very important ones. That's eicosapentaenoic acid, which is a 20-carbon omega-3 fatty acid, which is important for brain function and a lot of other things. DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, is a 22-carbon. Now, the longest carbon chain fatty acid that you can find anywhere in the plant kingdom is 18 carbons, right? So what you have to do is you have to make those like alpha-linolenic acid, and we've got very limited ability to convert alpha-linolenic acid into EPA and DHA. Why? Because if we ever had the ability to synthesize all the EPA and DHA we need from plants, we discarded that ability because we were getting it directly from the animal fats. And DHA in particular makes up between 10 and 20% of all the fats in your brain. And your brain, the dry weight of your brain is 60% fat anyway. So, and about 40% of that is DHA. We have a study that came out in, I think, 2011. It was actually about vitamin B12. And they looked at a load of people aged 60 or above in a range of institutions, I think in the US. And they looked at their diet, they took their blood and analyzed their blood, and they also used brain scans to estimate their brain volume. And there's a couple of very interesting things that came out of that, and this came out of a post hoc analysis of the data, because it wasn't the focus of the study. But what later analysts realized was, at the beginning of this study, every single one of the subjects who abstained from animal products, so what we would call plant-based or vegan today, had a smaller brain than every single one of the subjects who consumed animal products in any way, right? So all what we call vegans or plant-based today started with smaller brains than everyone else, okay? And those who abstained from animal products lost 1% of their brain volume on every single year of the duration of the study, right? And one of the main reasons for that is going to be lack of DHA in particular, Okay, these are absolutely vital. And there's a bunch of other stuff. You've got heme iron, and here I'm showing you them in bottles. Carnosine in your muscles, vitamin D3, you've got taurine, you've got creatine, you've got vitamin B12, obviously. And these are all essential. These are all things that you have to get from your diet. And it's very, very hard to get any of these really from the plant kingdom. The only reliable source of like DHA and EPA really comes from marine algae, which our ancestors certainly were not harvesting and extracting from the ocean. So there you go. And we've got this really sad story of this Russian lady who passed away this week, I think, living in Sri Lanka and this is really extreme, Phil, isn't it? But an extreme case. But she had this belief that she could eat jackfruit and just a few seeds, I think sunflower seeds and stuff like that. But you can see how she started on the left there and how she wound up.
Well, there are a lot of cases like this that we've seen, and a lot of people say, well, it's because she did it wrong, or she had an eating disorder, which I would count veganism or fruitarianism as eating disorders anyway. She had this infection and that killed her. Yes, but you've just got to look at her YouTube channel to see that she was in tremendous trouble for a long time. And a lot of them we see, like in Sverrier's epitome of malnourishment series. And okay, they are extreme examples because a lot of people, they wake up when they've had fewer issues with veganism, but this is a tragic case, and it's being publicized all over the place, and nobody's laughing at it. We're saying it as a warning. Just please break out of the conditioning, because this can happen, and it's very difficult when you get this body dysmorphia to actually realize it's happening. They look in the mirror, they think they look great, they're all skinny and all that, and to everybody else they just look completely wrong. And we see, not only on the sort of carnivore diets and keto diets, these sort of high animal product diets, you see people not only losing excess body fat, but also putting on the muscle from a state like this. We also see this level of what Sean Baker calls end stage veganism. We see that reversed, and people's bodies start to nourish themselves again. But these cases are a serious warning. Not everybody gets that far, absolutely. And some people look healthy. A friend of mine popped up on a thread of Ben's yesterday, and he lives abroad. He lives in Thailand, and there are a lot of fruitarians out there in Thailand and in Bali and whatever, where my son lives too. And they see a lot who look reasonably healthy, but under the surface, there are things going wrong. You don't look like this in a couple of days. It takes a while, but the damage is building up. Turn back from it before you get like this.
So, clearly she believed that her body could get everything it needed from just a few different fruits and just sunflower seeds, right? But believing something doesn't make it true. This is the point, that we know that there are several things that we are adapted to get from animal products. Okay, we'll leave all the ethical issues aside. We'll come on to that a bit later. But also, I think it's fair to say, using the evidence of your eyes, the way that she looked on the left here, and this is while her body is still probably packing some nutrition, some fats, for example, that from her previous life, that she was then just using up. She was burning through that nutrition because she wasn't getting it on a daily basis from her diet, until ending up on the right-hand side. And this is her age 39. Really tragic case. But yeah, we're not making fun of this at all. And we're not saying that every vegan is going to go down this route. It's a slower process, right? This is absolutely an extreme example. But the point is that just believing that, or having a religious belief that you can get everything that you need from a certain portion of the available foods doesn't make it true. Okay.
Yeah, and it once you get into that mindset, into that cult mindset, we'll come on to that, I guess, and that sort of religious fervor about it, you tend to start shouting and really spreading it to other people, and it sounds kind of logical to start with. And our friend Luke Scott now he's blocked me and Ben blocked him when we had some difficulty with him a while ago. So we can't see his post, but somebody did send me a screen recording of him going through how you can get all your nutrients from fruit and what he eats in a day as a high raw fruitarian. And it's so deluded. And he's spreading that stuff around. Good-hearted guy, but he's spreading that stuff around because he seriously believes it, because the moral superiority comes in. And we'll deal with that in a bit. But don't get stuck in it. Look deeper.
Yeah, and now we've got all these modern foods, right? So we've had 10,000 years of living mainly from agricultural produce, plants and animals. Okay, nice mixed thing. But now we've got all these seed oils, which were never fit for human consumption. In the 19th century, they were used as machine lubricants. We've got refined sugar. We've got bread. And even the fruits and vegetables that you get today, and people think, oh, these are natural, these are healthy. Well, they're not strictly even natural. None of these things really ever existed in that form in the wild. They have all been cultivated, domesticated, and bred to maximize certain factors and features. Like in the example of fruits, then people tend to like fruit more the higher its sugar content. So all fruit has been bred for maximum sugar content, while bananas are almost inedible things, right, compared to the big starchy things that you get in the shops. So all of these, let's put it another way, none of these existed beyond 15,000 years ago. So it's a fraction of our time on Earth when we've had any of this stuff, and you wonder why everyone's getting sick. So this is what we're told to eat. This is the UK Eat Well plate. They're saying roughly a third should come from fruits and vegetables. Roughly a third of your diet should be made up of starch and other stuff, a little bit of meat, fish, eggs, beans, and a little bit of milk and dairy, and a little bit of foods high in fat and or sugar. And the American one is called My Plate. It's very, very similar. Again, majority grains and vegetables, some protein, some fruit. So this is what we're told. And this is the idea of this balanced diet. Go figure. And this is what happened when the dietary guidelines were introduced in the US.
On the last one, Ben, I mean, just to point out this nonsense here, that foods and drinks high in fat and or sugar and salt, and they lump it all in together. It's like the vegans will lump in, the meat and dairy industry. Well, the meat industry, it's very split up. It's not as organized as the processed food and row crop industry. But the meat and dairy industry, why lump them together? If you can take dairy, maybe there's a whole load of problems with that, which is an area we'd probably agree with vegans on, that no adult animal actually eats it. But lumping it together, with meat and dairy, lumping fat and sugar together, lumping sort of fat and salt together. These things have got to be taken individually, because.
And here you've got cola and cake and Skittles and chocolate.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Is cheese in there as well? I don't know.
Yeah, so all of this stuff, this totally processed stuff, all of this totally processed, and they've also lumped together meat, fish, eggs, and beans, because they're on about protein. Like Ben always says, we're fativores, we're lipivores. The protein is not that necessary. You don't need to, past a certain point, it's not necessary, which also the vegans are kind of right about. But they get all their protein from these beans, these farty beans. And beans have got nothing to do with meat and fish. It's not bioavailable protein. It comes with a hell of a load of toxins. And there's no toxins in meat or fish coming from animals that have eaten what they're supposed to eat. No toxins whatsoever. But the beans are full of them, and they lump it together with protein. All of the incredible deceptions on both of these plates, both of these guides, is so confusing for people. It's very, very difficult. I know I went 30 odd years not really understanding what was going on, what they're doing here. Little tiny truths lumped in with sort of 99% bullshit.
Yeah. And here it says how much of what you eat should come from each group, right? Help you get the balance right. So how much of your food, so they're saying a third should come from starch. Now, starch is a load of glucose molecules joined together. That's all it is. And those glucose molecules are broken up and they go into your bloodstream as glucose. That's the way. It doesn't matter what kind of starch you're eating. That's what happens. That raises your blood sugar. That makes your pancreas release more insulin, and which leads to all kinds of issues. And the bottom line is that in your entire bloodstream, you should have about 1 teaspoon worth of glucose at any one time, right? For complete health. And what's more, your liver is capable of producing that glucose by breaking down proteins or fats as well. So there is absolutely zero requirement, right? This is not essential. That you've got no requirement for dietary sugar. You've got no requirement for dietary carbs in any form. And that is a simple fact. The fact that people believe otherwise doesn't change it whatsoever. This one, make half your plate fruits and veggies. They're packed with fiber and antioxidants. There's another one. Right? You have no requirement for fiber. Fiber is not essential in the diet. People say, well, if you don't have fiber, you're going to get all bunged up. It's necessary to keep everything moving along in the guts. Well, no, it's not. The truth about fiber is that it's an irritant and works like a laxative. And that if your intestines are struggling with a load of indigestible plant matter, then the insoluble fiber helps to irritate it and makes you poop it out. Right? It does not cause constipation if you don't have fiber. In fact, cutting out all the fiber from your diet has been shown to relieve constipation very, very effectively.
Yeah, and these, it says here they're packed with antioxidants. This nonsense. I mean, you don't need that. And the antioxidants, really, the best ones are in meat. Plus, a lot of these, what they call antioxidants, are actually plant toxins. And then you get the more color in the vegetables and fruit. I mean, you're not going to find that anywhere in the wild. Dairy, 3 servings per day gets you the calcium you need. You do not need this. It's just not necessary at all. And always here, choose low fat for fewer calories. So they're still pushing the old Ansel Keys low fat bullshit. And the calorie thing. I mean, the calories in, calories out model has been completely debunked. It's nonsense. And then they're going on about grains, none of which we're adapted to, and telling you to eat whole grains with more fiber that's going to rip your guts to bits, because refined grains has less nutrition. I mean, less nutrition than what? It has what? 0.001% of the nutrition you need rather than 0.00001%. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And B vitamins in here, in the grains. You want B vitamins? Eat some liver and don't eat it with grains to block the uptake. I'm getting wound up now. And protein, a palm-sized amount at lunch and dinner is all you need. Get it from beans and nuts, if you like. Bollocks.
Interestingly, they put beans and nuts first.
Yeah, exactly.
Fish and then chicken and beef and lamb and everything else don't even get a look in there. That's interesting.
Yeah, good lean choices. Lean chicken breast. It's probably the worst meat you can find in a supermarket. Still better than any of the plant matter, but probably the worst stuff, fed on soy, all full of crap, not even the fat off it. I mean, the whole thing is amazing, isn't it? And this is what they teach at school. And this is what you get brainwashed into.
Yeah.
A balanced diet. People don't even know what it means. You ask them what it means, they don't even know what it means.
But this is what it's suggesting. It's suggesting that a bit of cola, a bit of cake and chocolate and Skittles and stuff is acceptable, right? So, but this is what they tell people to eat. But what do people actually eat? Well, in the United States now, 70% of what goes into people's mouths is hyper-processed food or ultra-processed food, right? And these are these reconstituted products that are made out of 5 things. They are wheat, corn, soy, seed oils, and sugar, basically. 70%. And none of those things will provide the nutrition that your body actually needs, the amino acids, the fatty acids, and so on, right? So 70% of what Americans are eating today is nutritionally void and deplete. So how on earth are you supposed to get 100% of all your nutrition from 30% of your food, right? But what this is saying is that this stuff is part of a healthy diet, and it's not true. It's a lie. It's bullshit, right? And what people are doing is they're eating, loads and loads of this processed stuff, and meat isn't even really on here at all. No, look, it's beans, chickpeas, fish. Bizarre.
Well, they also what they do, they'll put a little bit of this in because they say, well, that's all right, but they know full well what's going to happen. This stuff is incredibly addictive, and they're not going to eat even the fruit and vegetables, which are crap anyway. They're going to eat this stuff to excess, like you say, 70% of the diet, because it's incredibly addictive. And they'll get you addicted. They'll put a little bit, just have a little bit. It's like the drug dealer outside the school gates, Oh, a little bit, it'll be all right. Before you know it, you're a crack addict. And this is exactly the same with this shit. As you say, this is recreational drugs, the food on here. It's not food.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, addictive, recreational drugs. And that's what people are eating. And if you go to the fruit and vegetables, nobody likes it anyway, particularly, not as much as they like Doritos and pizza and stuff like that. So they're not going to eat that stuff. They're going to try it, and then they're just going to go back to the junk. The best way out we see is by eating a really high-fat meat-based diet, which is really satiating. Yeah. And you can get rid of these cravings, but you're not going to get rid of the cravings by going onto this crap in the multicolor section here, which is eating the rainbow and all that nonsense. God, these charts wind me up.
So if you get rid of the dairy one, then you can actually have a complete plant-based vegan diet on all the rest. Just cut out where it says fish and chicken, and the rest of it is absolutely perfectly vegan. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is what happened to Americans once they introduced those dietary guidelines, that everyone got really, really fat and really, really sick. I love showing this one. This is from the town of Boston, Massachusetts in 1811. Shows all the causes of death recorded in that year, 942 in total, of which, notice 5 were from cancer. Okay, so we knew what cancer was. The other thing we know, so yeah, where's the heart disease? Where's the heart attacks? Right? The ancient Egyptians knew what heart attack was, but there weren't any. Even if you included all these sudden death as heart attacks, then but now we're being told that heart disease is the #1 killer of everybody, and 1 in 2 of us are going to get cancer in our lifetimes. Right? There's 5 deaths here from cancer out of nearly 1,000. Right? Something has gone really badly wrong.
There's something I haven't actually noticed on that chart before. If you could bung it back to that one. This is interesting here. Inflammation of the bowels, 1. Inflammation of the stomach, 1. Killed by lightning, 1. Now, these days, everybody's got inflammation of the bowels. Everybody's got IBS. Everybody's got Crohn's disease, that kind of thing. All this sort of stuff going on.
The lot, yeah.
Yeah, all of it. And so back then, it was as likely as being struck by lightning. That's amazing. And down here, 13 people drowned. So you were more likely to drown than you were to get inflammation of the bowels. That really says it, yeah. That really says something there.
And more people died of drinking cold water than inflammation of the bowels. There you go. Okay. So here's a key thing, and this is going to shock a lot of people. But remember how we looked at the plants, the rabbit, the fox earlier on, and we said that the purpose of the goal of every living thing is to survive long enough to procreate and spread its genetic material around the place. Okay, well, it may surprise you that plants don't want to be eaten any more than animals do. Right now, animals have different strategies for not being eaten. One is running away. They can hide. They can fight. Right now, plants are rooted to the spot. They cannot run away. They cannot hide, and they cannot actually fight. So they've come up over millions of years with their own survival strategies. Okay, and they include physical defenses like thorns and spikes, toxins. So this is the foxglove that contains a toxin that affects your heart rate, from which we have developed pharmaceuticals, by the way.
That's digitalis, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, and anti-nutrients as well. And they have come up with a dizzying array of these. It's said that about 98, 99% of animals in existence are in some way edible by humans, right? 98 to 99% of plants are toxic to humans. Right, just let that sink in. Okay, and these things tend to be these anti-nutrients and toxins tend to be focused on concentrated in the most important parts for plants. So nuts and seeds, well, which are their like reproductive things, are very important. The roots also, if the roots get eaten, then that can kill the plant, and also then finally stems and leaves as well. But we've got a bunch of these. So I mean, everyone knows about gluten. Lectins, so gluten, obviously, helping to give you a perforated bowel, leaky gut, allowing foreign proteins into your bloodstream that causes all kinds of problems. Phil, you know more about this stuff. Lectins tend to be more common in nuts, I think.
Yeah, I mean nuts, pulses, stuff like that. Lectins are pretty common all the way through everything. But where we're
This is a plant's babies. It does not want you to eat its babies.
yeah, where we're showing this, these are just a few, even in individual vegetables and pulses and whatnot. They all have loads of other ones. It's not just like pulses will have lectins in. They got a load of other stuff in too. There's glycoalkaloids here, which is potatoes, the nightshades. This is in potatoes, in eggplant. It's in
Peppers, chilies, yeah.
peppers, chilies, yeah, that kind of thing. This is not good. You'll really notice that in the joints if you've got any sort of tendency towards arthritis. Goitrogens in broccoli and cauliflower, for messing the thyroid about. If you eat the odd little bit of broccoli, is it going to blow up your thyroid? Probably not, but it's still toxic. Oxalates, yeah. For oxalates, have a look at Sally Norton's work, her book,
True.
Toxic Superfoods. Yeah, there we go. The spinach smoothie, toxic superfoods. Yeah, nice. Predicted that one. The spinach smoothie, yeah, I poisoned myself very badly with spinach smoothies when I was doing extremely healthy raw veganism that was going to cure me of everything. And actually, all it did was pile the oxalates in and give me kidney stones on top of what I already had.
There's a couple, wasn't there, that took it even further than you did, I think, Phil. And wasn't she hospitalized and he actually died?
Yeah, from a few bowls of sorrel soup. I believe that was in France, wasn't it? But I think there are a lot of cases. Sally has mentioned, over the years of oxalate toxicity. We've known this for a long time. People have died from it. There is an actual lethal dose of spinach smoothies, I understand, depending on how you work it out. Between 6 and 30 spinach smoothies a day will probably kill you outright. But if you stay just below the lethal dose like I did, then you set yourself up for literally decades of problems trying to clear these things.
Yeah, and the oxalates, you get them a lot in things like spinach, so leafy greens, but not all. They come in lots of different places as well. Tea, for example, is high in oxalates. Even cocoa as well.
Yeah, turmeric, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate's full of them.
Yeah. Okay, well, so hopefully we've at least got you guys thinking again about the health claims that the bottom line one is that fruits and vegetables are the healthy option, and that is one of, I think, the biggest, most insidious and most dangerous myths that is circulating in our society today, and it's definitely being promoted. So, Phil, let's move on to the environmental question. So we're told that eating plants is better for the planet. Okay, well, let's start to pick these apart. There's Uncle Bill, says we should stop eating cows because farting cows, burping cows are going to make the planet boil. All right. Now, everybody knows this is true, but then everybody knows you should have 5 a day. But not everybody knows that the idea of 5 a day was written on the back of a cigarette packet in the 1990s, a marketing meeting for fruit and vegetable growers. How can we sell more fruits and vegetables? Well, let's tell everybody they need 5 a day. That's where it came from. Okay.
It's another thing people don't know, the hypocrisy of this dude on the left, that Anthony Chaffee grew up in the same town as him and always used to see him in the local steakhouse. He had a favorite steakhouse. So he obviously knows something that he's not telling everybody else, although, with his hormonal disruption and his body composition, you can pretty much tell that he's adding a load of other crap to it, but he's eating his steaks.
Yeah, yeah. So are there too many cows, right? I mean, let's just apply a bit of common sense here. Are there too many cows on Earth? Okay, so here's a herd of bison, and this is actually a much smaller kind of herd of bison than you would have seen if you were a settler migrating across the United States from east to west a few hundred years ago, because apparently the herds there blotted out the land. They went from horizon to horizon, right? They were so big. And just using common sense, right? The earth didn't boil then. Okay, so why should it boil now when we've got no more large ruminants on Earth than we ever have had before? Why do we know that? Because one thing that we can say with absolute certainty, just using simple rational common sense, is that the Earth has always supported as many of everything as it can, right? As many elephants, as many whales. Now, obviously, we've done a very good job of almost wiping out the whales, right? And we've reduced the elephants, of course, and we killed all the mammoth, okay? But without our intervention, there will always be as many of anything as any particular ecology will support, okay? So this is how nature works, right? It always tends to balance, okay? So it normalizes. So if, for example, if everything kind of dries out, the earth got cooler and dried out, and the trees receded, then the grasses came up. And that's good for the herbivores, the grass eaters, okay? But whenever one particular kind of plant species increases, then the animals that eat that kind of plant will thrive as well. And then the animals that eat those animals will tend to thrive, right? But if they overhunt, then the population goes down, so the predators will go down. Everything tends to balance in nature. This is absolutely important. Nature can't kill nature. It's never managed to do it. We know that because we've looked back for 500 half a billion years, and we've had life thriving on Earth for that entire time. So nature has not managed to wipe itself out in that time. But now we're being told, no, it's cows and sheep, right? They're going to cause the whole planet to boil. Well, you get things like this, and this looks really scary. And you get Greta, the angry goblin, saying that we're all going to burn up, and we all get very, very frightened. Okay. Now, but the point is, this period, okay, where are we measuring global warming from, right? By the way, global warming is less fashionable now. They used to talk about global warming, but then it didn't actually warm for the middle part of the 20th century. So, and it's kind of stalled a few times, which confused people. So they've now rebranded it to climate change. Go on to Google Trends, put both terms in, and you'll see where they swap over a few years ago. Anyway, so where are we measuring this from? Well, we're measuring it from the period around, get rid of her, around 1800 or so, right? Just prior to the Industrial Revolution, when we started digging up a load of coal and drilling for oil and stuff like that. Now, that is the end of the period known as the Little Ice Age, which is where we get this idea, right? The Christmas card, the snowy scene, because 200, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, in Britain, it was this cold every winter, right? Now in Britain, you're more likely to have snow on Easter than you are on Christmas, okay? But this is the point. We had this very cold period. Now let's put this into the context of the big picture, all right? And let's ask ourselves the question, is Earth getting too hot for starting? Because if we can't say that, then nothing, every argument then falls down, right? We're being told that the world is getting too hot. Now, let's start at the beginning, because I love this bit, right? So 500 million years ago, when life first kind of crawled out onto Earth, it was 7 to 8 degrees warmer than it is now, okay? And over this long term, you can see roughly about every 150 million years, it goes from hot then to cold, right? And it goes there again. So this is a global minimum, around nearly 2 degrees cooler than it is now. Then it got hot, then it got colder, to around where we are now, by the way. And then it got warmer, and then we had this thermal maximum here around the time dinosaurs died out 50, 60 million years ago. And from then on, it's gone down, 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 down. Okay, so this graph starts with a very long range, medium range, and now this is the short range, the last 10,000 years. Okay, and within that, it goes up and down with what's called these Milankovitch cycles, which is to do to the angle of dangle and the wibbly wobbly of the Earth in orbit, and how much we're pointing towards the sun and so forth. Okay, so what we've had, so what you can see from here is it's been about 2 degrees cooler than it is now. And these are the last 500,000 years, 1, 2, 3, 4 ice ages, right? And then you've got these interglacial periods where it just got a bit warmer and it was all very nice. And that's what we're in now. We are in an interglacial period. According to this big picture, we're actually due another ice age along sometime soon, okay? And then this is where we are now. So if you look at these last 10,000 years, right? Last 10,000 years, it's been wibbly wobbly up and down, and currently we're in an upswing, right? But the last 10,000 years is also since the end of the last ice age, right? When the big megafauna, the big fat animals died out, either due to warming, which is natural, or overhunting, which is our fault. Okay, this is the entire span of human civilization. Okay, and here's another representation going back over the last 400,000 years. And there's a couple of interesting things here. One is that, so the blue line is atmospheric CO2 concentration, which has shot up recently since we burned a lot of forests and coal and gas and oil, right? So that's shot up. Okay. The temperatures, not so much. Another thing you'll notice is that the temperature change, if you look at different peaks or different troughs in temperature change and the corresponding CO2 concentration, you will see there's a very, very clear correlation, undeniable correlation. But what's weird is that the temperature peaks and troughs seem to happen a few hundred years before the corresponding CO2 change. And the argument, the explanation for that is that the Earth warms up and cools down because of the Milankovitch cycles, right? And also because of, in the even shorter term, because of solar activity, but we don't need to go into that. Okay, but when the planet heats up, the water on Earth, all the oceans, the warmer water is, the less dissolved gases it can contain. So you get more dissolved gases, you get more CO2 being released into the atmosphere, right? When the oceans cool down, they absorb more CO2. Okay, so that's one explanation for all of that. Here's where we are now, and here is the current spike, this big scary spike that we're told is about to kill us all if we don't keep it down within another 1 degree or whatever. So a few hundred years ago, we had the medieval warming, and guess what? That is a good degree hotter than it is now, right? The time of the Romans was a degree hotter than that, okay? And then in this Minoan period, this is around the time of the end of the ancient Egyptian civilization, another at least degree warmer than that, okay? So this is, again, the span of human civilization. 95% of that time has been warmer than it is now. So how on earth can anyone say we're going to wipe out humanity? Because it didn't. It's been warmer than that for most of the time that we've been here. And we've been making records, we've been writing down, we've been farming, we've done all this thing. We haven't wiped ourselves out. So why is it going to happen now anyway? So maybe there's no environmental crisis. Well, actually there is. There is a very real environmental crisis, but it's not going on in the sky above our heads. Right, here's a a representation of most of the land on Earth, and it's highlighted the arid areas in kind of yellowish, and then very arid and extremely arid. Okay, so semi-arid is yellow, the orange is arid, and this dark orange is basically desert. Okay, now agriculture started around 10,000 years ago in this area of the Eastern Mediterranean. Okay, so Egypt, Palestine, down to Iraq, right, Syria, places like that. Now let's just go back to this map. Okay, this is the area that we're talking about. Okay, what do you notice about this area? Okay, Egypt, all these areas. This is all arid. Okay, it's all arid or semi-arid. Okay, but here it was green. It was called the Fertile Crescent. Okay, and this is only a few thousand years ago. So what happened, right? We know also, by the way, the Romans used to grow most of their olives and their grains in this area of North Africa, what we now call the Sahara Desert. Okay, so something seriously has gone wrong. And this is basically what it is. We've been plowing the soil. Okay, so we'll get back to veganism, don't worry. Okay, now David Montgomery wrote a fantastic book where he highlighted how every civilization has basically burnt itself out within 500 to 1,000 years because it plowed its soil. Okay, this is the real environmental crisis. When we plow the soil, when we plow for row crops, we destroy everything. Okay, it appears for a while to create some fertility in the soil. And the reason is because when you're slicing through, when you're turning over all this stuff that's meant to be underground, by the way, it's meant to have a blanket or skin of decomposing plant matter on top of it, and poop and all these good things, right? That helps to protect the organisms in the soil. When you turn all those out, you slice through them, you overturn it, you expose it to the sun, to the air, to ultraviolet light and the rain, it kills a bunch of stuff. And when it kills a bunch of stuff, their dying bodies release nitrogen, which helps plants to grow, and that appears to make the soil more fertile. Hooray! Right? So our wheat grows better, our potatoes grow better, okay, for a period of time. The problem is that over the medium to long term, the soil actually dies and turns into desert. Okay, so if this is your idea of farming as well, you need to give your head a wobble, right? So we create these monocrops. We clear land. We destroy every species that we don't want. Okay, so if you're growing wheat, you want to destroy every other plant species on there. And then because of that, nature abhors monocultures. Right? This just doesn't, you don't find it anywhere in nature. Just go out somewhere wild and look at a patch of land and see how many different species there are growing there, right? It'll be full of plants, fungi, animals, worms, everything. And many, many species all using the same land, right? In this abundance and richness. This is the opposite of abundance. So what you end up having to do is you end up having to spray. And really, if I would say, Phil, if the answer to anything is spraying on chemicals, then you've misunderstood the question in general.
Well, I can predict what vegans and vegetarians, if they've got this far, are saying, really, that, well, not vegetarians because they do eat this stuff, but some vegan or fruitarian will be saying, well, I don't promote any of that because I don't eat any crops. I just eat sort of leaves and I eat fruit. And that's done in a sort of, a regenerative way. And I'm absolutely fine with that. Well, listen, that doesn't make it your natural diet and you wouldn't find it in the wild. That's that. And then the other thing they're thinking is, well, most of these crops are grown to feed your animals. And that's not true either, because they only get given the sort of husks and the stuff that's left. Very few crops are actually grown to feed these factory farmed animals exclusively. We take the seed oils out. We take whatever we need, the fuel oils. We take whatever we need out of these plants, and then the animals get the so-called not fit for human consumption bits afterwards. Although none of it's really fit for human consumption.
Or if there are any crops that are spoiled and don't make the grade, then they are recycled into animals, which is surely a good thing.
I would say that. Actually, vegans are contributing to factory farming, which we're not, because we eat grass-fed lamb and beef and pretty much nothing else. but they're contributing to factory farming because it's forcing the animals off the pasture and into those factory farms. They should be out on the land there and not be eating any of this stuff. But if humans didn't eat this stuff, they wouldn't bother growing it for animals. That's the truth.
Yeah. And then you've got the whole issue of carbon dioxide. Now, this is a period of just over 30 years. And wherever you see it as green on the map, and the darker green, the more so, the leaf area has increased. The bottom line is, as CO2 has gone up, so has vegetation cover on Earth. The Earth is actually getting greener because there's more CO2, right? So, I don't know, try and make an argument that it's a pollutant. And also, when the more green you've got, so the more trees, the more grasses and whatever, the more lush the environment is, that actually encourages precipitation. So it will encourage more rain to fall, which will help to build soil, store water in the ground and cool the earth as well. Another whole argument that we get is, oh, because of climate change, we've all seen pictures like this. And this is upsetting, right? This is a polar bear. Now, it might be very old. It might be sick. It might have just come out of hibernation. We don't know. But we're told that because of climate change, the ice caps are all melting, which isn't true. And all the polar bears are dying out, which isn't true. That the world population of polar bears has actually gone up from about 5,000 in the 1950s to at least 22,000 in 2015, if not over 30,000, right? Mainly because we stopped killing seals for fur in that way. So they've got more food. Okay. So you've got to treat it all. You've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. It's very, very difficult to navigate this stuff. But hopefully we could, what we're doing is we're saying, here are some alternative ideas based on common sense that you can use. Okay. Now we get into the meat and potatoes of it, the whole ethical side of things, but it's wrong. It's wrong to take the life of another living thing or another animal. Okay. Well, I refer you again to this slide that we made earlier on. Okay. The plant takes the sunlight from the sun. It takes CO2 out of the air. It takes nutrients and minerals from the soil, right? It turns them into plant. Okay. The herbivore then eats the plant. Now, herbivores tend to evolve to eat certain species of plant. There's no animal out there that can eat any plant at all because they're so laden with toxins and anti-nutrients and stuff like that. So you get animals that evolve to eat grass, you get animals that evolve to eat eucalyptus and so on and so forth. Okay. And what are they doing? They are following that grand imperative of life. They want to grow, they want to reproduce. And then the carnivores eat the herbivores and they cycle the energy yet again into new life. And then everything cycles round. Okay. So the ethical argument is saying that the fox is wrong for doing that. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. Wouldn't it be great if we just didn't have predators, if animals didn't eat other animals? And we've all seen silly memes about this stuff, but there is an experiment that we can refer to that in the 1980s, some rich guy decided to create a wildlife sanctuary in the Netherlands called Oostvaardersplassen. And they had these Polish cattle, they had feral horses, they had a bunch of stuff, and they just let them loose in there. And they had quite a big area to roam around on and no predators. So what happened, right? The humans weren't eating the animals. Nothing was eating the animals. They were just left to live in peace. Well, what happened is every year they would breed because they ate what they wanted. They bred as much as they could breed because that's what life does. And then every winter there was a massive die-off of animals. And people in the towns nearby were complaining of the stench of the rotting carcasses as these animals starved to death because they'd eaten all the food. And without predators, their numbers were not kept in check. And this is the point, that nature does this and everything is kept in balance. It's absolutely right, it's beautiful, and it's appropriate. So we can use Oostvaardersplassen as an example. So a lot of us have seen... this is a PETA billboard. All animals want to live, and where do you draw the line? Okay, fair point. So I'd like to turn that around to say, let's use the same kind of idea. This is a golden eagle, and it is eating a rabbit, right? It's swooped down out of the sky, it's killed a rabbit, and now it's eating the rabbit's flesh for itself. Now, where is the evil? This is what I would like to say to everyone who takes an ethical stance that eating meat is wrong. Okay, where is the evil? Is it evil that the rabbit died? Well, we know all rabbits die, right? Every living thing dies. For every life, there is always one death. So you can't say that it's evil that the rabbit died, right? Rabbits die of old age. They get hit by cars. They get myxomatosis. There's all kinds of ways rabbits can die. Okay, is it evil that the eagle killed the rabbit? Right? If you say yes, then what you're saying is that nature got it wrong. Nature has had it wrong for millions and tens of millions of years, and was waiting for nice white middle class people to come along and say, you know, we've actually got an improvement on your process, your system. You know, you've been waiting for us to come along and fix it. Is it wrong that the eagle killed the rabbit for food? Right? Is it wrong because the eagle has to eat meat? It's an obligate carnivore. Well, I would make the same argument for humans, that we need those animal products. Yes, you may be able to survive without them for a few years or decades, but not indefinitely, because your brain's going to shrink, your body's going to be, you know, cannibalizing all those nutrients. Or you know, to take it right to the nth degree, is it because birds have no moral agency? But that's saying it's still kind of evil, but they just don't know it. So if you really try and say, well, where do you draw the line, vegans? You know, where is the evil in that process? It's a tricky one.
Well, they say that it's to do with intention, don't they? And they fail to understand the word pesticide and know what that actually means. And
Side
all
means
these,
kill in Latin.
yeah, exactly. And all these animals that are killed, you know, with combine harvesters are just, you know, it's just an accident. It wasn't intentional.
Mm.
But then again, they say, some of them say, oh, well, they all run out of the way anyway. Yeah, but how would you like it if somebody comes into your street and mows down your house? You might be in it, it might kill you, you might run away, but you've got no house to come back to because the crops have ruined all the land. It's amazing. Any way you look at it, the vegan argument just does not hold up.
Yeah, yeah. And the vegan argument has only been around since about the 50s. Anyway, we're talking about a few generations. That there is not one tribe out there, one surviving tribe in the world that abstains from animal products. They get it. They understand life. They understand all of this. Right? We have this idea that death is the opposite of life. Oh, well, if I minimize death, well, for one thing, you're not minimizing death, because when you take a bit of landscape and you turn it into a field, it's ecocide. You are destroying an entire ecosystem, right? Every rodent, every ground nesting bird, reptile, amphibian, whatever, they get destroyed, they get displaced, right? So that a corporation in general now can plant one species of plant that probably isn't even a natural species of plant anyway, for profit. Okay, and it's got no nutrition in it anyway once it reaches your plate. Okay, so you're not enhancing life by not eating the animals. That row crops are responsible for far more, but it's not even death. This is the point. It's not a case of life being the opposite of death, because they are not. Right? Minimizing death doesn't maximize life. They are one and the same thing. They are two sides of the same coin. For every life, there is always one death. So if you want to minimize death, then you have to minimize life. And by all means, right, destroy thousands of acres and plant soybeans, because that is a great way to minimize death. Yeah, you kill everything to start with, okay, but that's a price worth paying, because you're minimizing death. So you can grow a bunch of soy plants and eat them, right? But what you're not having is all those other species, all the fungal species, all the animal species, the invertebrates, the mammals, the birds, everything living in that ecosystem, because it's destroyed. You've destroyed the ecosystem. This is what you get. This is a modern field. This isn't even a particularly bad one, right? There's almost no life going on here. This soil is compacted. You can see the color of it. It's very light, which means it's got very little organic matter in it. There's no carbon in it, really. And the only way that you're going to persuade plants to grow in this dirt is by tricking the plants by applying petrochemical-based nitrogen fertilizers. And the plant goes, oh, nitrogen, and sucks it up and tries to grow. But when it grows, it's not even going to have the proper nutrition because they're annual plants. They're all annuals, short roots, don't go down very far, can't tap into the minerals and nutrients that are deeper down in the soil. They can't cycle the soil around. The soil's just dying out. Right? And it's lost most of its nutrition in the last 50 years. And this is what you get. I mean, vegans, where is the life in this picture? These combines might even be guided by GPS and driven by robots for all I know, right? I can't point to anything living in this picture whatsoever. So don't tell me that this is a life-enhancing diet. Don't tell me that this is better for the animals. Vegan for the animals, this is the phrase. We're doing it for the animals. So where are the animals? See, for my way of eating, there are cows at the end of my field down there, at the end of my garden in a field, that I am supporting in a way because they get a life. They get a life. And I love this Italian proverb, every animal deserves a good life, a good death, a good butcher, and a good chef, right? We should be honoring everywhere our food comes from. We should be honoring the animals as every tribe has done, I believe. But where are the animals in this picture? If you don't breed these animals, you're not going to have sanctuaries up and down the land where, you know, after you've had your soy fake meat burger and been to the bathroom for the 4th time that day, you can go off and stroke a cow and say, look, I've saved your life. Well, you haven't saved anything. By not eating cows, you don't get more cows. You get fewer cows. You get fewer sheep, fewer pigs, fewer everything. There's less life. Right? I mean, this is at least appears to be like permanent grassland. Okay, but that's not where vegan food comes from. You know, there should be cows on here. And this is just one of those big paradoxes, Phil, that just really tweaks my melon. You're not getting more animals. There's this idea that the food pyramid is like the powers that be love these power structures. That you know, you've got plants at the bottom, then herbivores, and then you've got at the top of the food chain, you've got these predators. It's not like that at all. The food, the way that food and energy circulate and nutrients circulate is this incredibly complex web involving the soil, all the microorganisms in the soil, multiple plant species. That's what nature does, right? Nature doesn't organize things very neatly like that. She makes things that are constantly changing, constantly flowing, rich, beautiful, and inconceivably complex. Right? We try and improve on those things with our monocrop farming, and we fail. Every case in which humans try to improve on what nature does, we screw it up. Right? And here's the thing, that the place of every living species in this beautiful, wondrous food web really matters. If you take the zebra, for example, if you just said, okay, snap my fingers, all the zebra in the world disappear, another species would come along to occupy that place in the food web. We know this, but why? Because the place in the food web really, really matters to nature. And I believe that our place in the food web matters. I think it tells us who we actually are. It tells us our place in the universe. And for somebody to say, actually, no, you can identify as a herbivore if you want to, it's bullshit. And it says to us that our divinely ordained place in the order of things is arbitrary. You can, you know, choosing to eat plants doesn't make you a herbivore any more than putting on a dress would make me a woman. It's just not true. And you get this soil. I mean, it all comes down to the soil. The soil is the basis of all life. 1 billion individual living things in one teaspoonful of soil, representing 10,000 different species. So if you're on about maximizing life, that's what you want to be doing. Right? That's life. This is not life. This is not maximizing life either. And Phil, you and I are never going to say, we're never going to put an argument for rearing pigs in crates indoors, or, you know, chickens in this kind of concentration.
Well, this is what they always say. You're condoning animal cruelty and animal rape and all that sort of thing. And this is what vegans will be thinking now. And absolutely, there are animals kept in horrific conditions. And this is usually, as this picture suggests, it's the pigs and the chickens. And this is why pork is not ideal. Chicken is not ideal to eat either. And it shouldn't be done like this. And, you know, the ruminant animals should be back on the land. We should be focusing on that because that's where the proper nutrients are. There's not so many nutrients in chickens anyway, but people like them because they flavor them up with other things and put buns around them and eat them with chips and stuff like that. And the pork is pretty cheap to sell because they can produce it in this way. It's very much more difficult to feed pigs naturally and get so much pork out of them. But, you know, this is why we should be back on ruminant animals, because
they feed them all on grains and soy, don't they, to make them get fat quicker, so they can get onto the shelves quicker.
And exactly. And the fat becomes toxic and high in omega-6s and deuterium, almost like a seed oil. So we're with you, vegans, on this one. But please look past it, because you look at these stupid propaganda films and you see these tiny little bits of semi-truths, and you're not looking deeper. And with these propaganda films, please, if you're sitting here now going, well, you should watch Forks Over Knives. Well, what about the Game Changers? Well, we've seen them all. But also look up the debunks of them on YouTube or whatever. I mean, Paul Saladino's done some good ones. Load of people have done them. And they'll go through point by point, and you will see just how dishonest these films are, how much they paint completely the wrong picture, and how much they're playing into the hands of these food corporations. And you're condoning it and you don't realize. This moral thing has got to be seen. Yes, let's go down hand in hand, the carnivores and the vegans, and go and sort out factory farming. But just because farming is crap these days, it's no reason to go and protest by poisoning yourself with toxic vegetables. This is not a good way to do it. Vote with your wallet. Go out to the local farms who have grass-fed beef and lamb. Give them your money and don't buy it in the supermarkets. Don't buy the crappy pork and the chicken, and certainly don't buy all the pulses and grains, because then you're condoning all of this sort of crap, all of this factory farming, all of this shitty crop farming that is ruining the soil. That's what you're condoning. And the crops that you're condoning being eaten are being fed to these poor guys here in these factory farms. So vote with your wallet, eat the most vegan thing on the menu, which is grass-fed beef and lamb. Restore your health. Yeah, there we go. The most vegan item on the menu. We're great minds think alike. But, you know, this is where you should be putting your money. This is where you should be putting your support, because the elites that are trying to control your diet, they're pushing the plant-based diets, and they're trying to get rid of these farmers. They're making it more and more difficult for them. They're taxing them. They're bringing in these ridiculous regulations. They're faking pandemics. And, you know, we've got to wake up to this. Not only have we got to wake up to this, even if you want to stay vegetarian and vegan, fine. If you think, oh, well, we're not listening to these two guys, we still have our organic fruit and veg, well, great. If they come for the meat and they succeed, they'll be coming for your organic fruit and veg too. And you'll end up on Beyond Burgers and soy sausages and cricket flour. Yeah. So please wake up.
And when you look at an environment like this, right? This is permanent pasture. So really try and get your head around this. The soil under this turf is never disturbed. It's teeming with life. The grasses growing here are perennial grasses. Their roots can go down multiple feet into the soil. They're constantly bringing up nutrients from deep down. These cows eat the grass. That encourages the grass to grow faster. They're not even destroying, they're not even killing the plant. They eat the grass. It gets rapidly digested into manure and returned to the soil. They are building soil. And if you still believe that carbon dioxide and carbon is a pollutant, then one of the best ways that you can take it out of the air is to turn it into poop and mix it back into the soil, right? Apart from anything else, you'll have hundreds of different species of plant growing in this area of land, and the cows will then go and forage on different forbs and low-lying herbs and even tree leaves and stuff like that in a nice mixed environment. But more than anything else, we've got cows here. We've got beautiful, large mammals enjoying a relatively safe life where they're looked after, they're fed, they're given medical care, right? All up until their one bad day, as we call it, right? But again, the avoidance of death is not the point. We can't avoid death because the only way to avoid death is to avoid life. So we've gone over 3 arguments. I know we've taken a bunch of time. We've looked at health. We've looked at the environment. We've looked at the ethics of eating animals. And I think that we have been able to prove, Phil, that the veganism is dead wrong on each count. So
I think we have, and you know, I mean, we could even go on into the other thing about spirituality, but just look at the rest of my YouTube channel, and I've got 3 videos: one carnivore diet and spirituality, one called carnivore diet, ahimsa and non-violence, and another one called diet brainwashing: why spiritual people still die of cancer. Have a look at those, because where this has come from, where all of this plant-based nonsense has come from, has been from perverted ideas from religious and spiritual factions. And it's not part of our ancestry. It doesn't make you spiritual to not eat meat. You're not going to prevent yourself from ascending to 5D or becoming enlightened or anything like that by cutting meat out of your diet. In fact, you're going to destroy your consciousness, really, because, you know, the brain and the emotions and the consciousness and everything, they all go hand in hand.
And Phil, I've had vegans say to me, "Oh, you eat meat. Eating meat will lower your vibration."
Yeah.
To which I'll say, right, can you imagine 10,000 mothers and fathers, right? Yeah. All your ancestors beyond the last generation or 2. Would you stand in front of them and say to them, "I am more spiritually evolved than all of you guys because I'm a vegan"? Right? I mean, if you want the "how dare you" moment, to borrow from Greta, that is mine. How dare you insult all of your ancestors who knew exactly where they belonged in the order of things. They didn't hate animals. We don't hate animals. We love them, right? Absolutely. We all have our place in the divine order, okay? And eating other animals has its place in nature. If you take nothing away from that, that's what I want. Any closing words from you, Phil?
Yeah, if you want to go vegan or vegetarian, it's your own business. You know, if you really actually like that stuff better, then eat it. But be educated on plant toxins, be educated on where we came from, what our ancestors ate, be aware of what tribes actually eat, you know, and that they have none of these modern diseases. But do not preach about it. Don't get stuck in the thought that it's all marvelous and holy and ethical and healthy, because it's not. If you want to experiment with it, fine. Try and get out of it before it damages you as much as it damaged me and a load of the clients I see who are now healing on carnivore diets. And you know, above all, don't feed it to your children. They're in their formative years. If we can get rid of this moral business about it, then we can all talk about diet on a level playing field. You know, like you compare cars. Oh, well, this car's got good brakes. This one's got good engine. Well, whatever. So then we can start talking about meat and vegetables, and people will be able to talk without getting really het up and aggressive towards others. So when we can get rid of that, and then you can decide what you're going to feed your kids. This is their formative years. You really need to feed them properly. They need to go from breast milk, which they're intended to have, and you'll notice that they're not vegan when they're having breast milk. And so they start off in life not vegan. Don't make them eat vegan food after that, because they will be lacking in nutrients that would build up their bodies for a lifetime. A lot of people get away with veganism because they ate much better food when they were growing up before they decided veganism was a good choice. Most vegans, it's their first dietary choice. after eating a sad diet, a regular diet, and they go, right, we're going to eat vegan now because it's all good for the animals, good for us. But actually, as I put
some
up
of
on
them
my
will
Facebook,
experience an improvement in health in many ways.
yeah, as I put up on my Facebook the other day, a question: what do you call a real expert on the vegan diet? Answer: a carnivore. Why? Because we've absolutely learned. We've been through all these other diets. We've been through all the bullshit. It took me 30 years to get the knowledge that we've just presented in this slideshow. And it's very confusing, but when you've been through all the different diets and seen what they do, going more and more towards carnivore and seeing the absolute miracles of eating a carnivore diet, not that everybody has to go all that way towards carnivore. But please wake up about veganism, or the elites are going to take control. They're going to take away your freedom. They're going to take away your brain power. You're going to be emaciated, and you're going to be just,
even more easily controlled.
Exactly.
That's the point of it. And we've also got another presentation called The Food Conspiracy, if you want to know more about some of the more shadowy side behind this and the history in religion and things like that as well. We go into that more in that presentation as well, so we'll link to that one. But for
go on.
Yeah, for anybody who is a wavering vegan, a recently ex-vegan, or questioning, curious vegetarian, then and if you want help with this, we do have the Big Fat Challenge. You go to www.thebigfatchallenge.com. It's a 90-day challenge where we coach you through transitioning back to your species appropriate diet based on your manufacturer's recommended fuel, which is animal fats. Don't believe us, try it out for yourself, give it 90 days and see what happens, see what the difference is.
Yeah, and the amount of amazing testimonials we've had from this, go have a look at them. Look at the content of it. There's our 2 Red Pill Revolution books in PDF and audio book. Even that's worth the price of the challenge itself. But it's so comprehensive. We're even adding to it all the time. And it's on a pay what you can afford basis. So we can't say fairer than that. We don't want to turn anyone away. Go and click on that now and have a look. Have a look through what's on offer, because you might just be surprised. It could really be for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for your attention. We do really appreciate it, and hope it's at least stimulated some thoughts.